Hello and welcome to Otherworld Global Radio and Video Podcast. I am your host, Sandra Sabatini. Joining me today is the legend, martial art legend, Kathy Long. This has been a long time coming. Forgive the pun. A long time coming. This interview today, and I tell you, this is also the premiere of our first show coming back into the new year of 2021 for Otherworld Global Network. And Kathy, it's a pleasure to have you on our premiere show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And you know what they say about puns? Use a pun, go to jail.
Oh, no. Well, I tell you, I'm trying my best to avoid any type of political ramblings on today's show. But, you know, we're kind of in that climate. And I'm just going to kind of follow your lead as we kind of go on later on in the interview today. So we have so many people that watch our program and listen to our podcast around the world. We have everything from a mom in her kitchen right now watching this that's not heard about you, to martial art experts that's going to get a link to this free podcast and video cast today.
Awesome.
So we also have scientists, you name it, authors that are just getting to know who you are. So why don't we just start from the beginning? How did you get involved in the martial arts?
Well, I had a friend in high school. I was a freshman in high school, and she was studying Aikido on March Air Force Base. She invited me to come and participate in the class and just meet the instructor. And he was this really gentle, kind of a giant Buddha type of guy. Super postman by day and a Aikido instructor by night. And he used I don't know what you call them, because on the military base there's this facility where you can do all kinds of different types of exercises and with boxing and weightlifting and all kinds of other stuff. So he managed to set up some mats and was able to teach Aikido there. So he would get a special pass to go on. That's how I got started. And I used to sneak on to base every day and take class, and then sneak off base every day. So
I see.
I crawled through this ravine that went through into March Air Force Base because I lived right next to the gate.
Okay.
Gate. So I crawled under the fence and made my way through the fence and crawled through the ravine, and I'd look over and see if the guy at the gate was watching, and I'd pop up and just acted like I lived there.
Oh my God.
I know.
So you said, hey, this looks pretty interesting. What was it that he was teaching there?
He was teaching Aikido.
Aikido?
Aikido, which is kind of a neat art. Certainly not my first one. I mean, not my only one, but it's definitely my first.
So what was it about it that just really just got your attention? You said, you know what, I'm really going to get involved in this. It looks like this is something for me.
You know, it wasn't that at all. It was the family structure that I didn't have at home that I clung to. He provided such a very caring and nurturing environment that I was there every day. I was there before they opened and stayed till after they closed. And it was that family nurturing structure that I clung to because I didn't have that at home.
I see.
And that's something I try to bring forward in every area, that everywhere I teach, everywhere I go in that respect, because it's needed. The world needs it.
There's such a wonderful philosophy behind the martial arts of family and camaraderie, and given that basic foundation to instill certain life skills. I completely understand. I've been in martial arts over 35 years before I started doing all of this. So that's a shock for some people out there just learning about this. But yeah, I completely understand. So it kind of changed your whole perspective. It gave you a solid foundation. A lot of, it sounds like there was a lot of challenge on the home front as a youth. And, for the kids that are out there listening to this right now, what would you say to them about their journey as they're starting out in the martial arts?
There's a lot to say, but to keep it short and poignant, let's put it that way, I would say if you start something, you finish it. And the journey is yours, completely yours. It's not what everyone tells you you need to learn and you need to do. You need to do this, you need to do that. It's completely your journey. Um, Young or old, it doesn't matter. And you're there for a very specific reason, and that's to evolve and to grow and to become closer to who you really are.
Indeed. And that exactly is what happened with you, because from that, we see you going into another part of your journey with the martial arts. How did you progress from Aikido to going into boxing, kickboxing?
Mm, Gosh, I started I started dating this slightly older guy when I was about 17,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a upper belt in Kung Fu Sansu. And while I was studying Aikido, I was also studying Shorin-ryu.
Ah,
So yeah, and that was something that I really didn't advertise that or tout that because it was just something else to do at the time. I really didn't get ranked in it. I mean, I think I had an honorary black belt only because I was kinesthetically kind of bright, so I could pick up things really quickly and easily. But I just didn't feel I didn't feel that that counted. So I really didn't tell anybody that I had studied that. From there, I'd gone into. He was a master, not a master, but an upper belt. Eric, the guy that I was dating, and at first I thought the art itself was pretty violent. Um,
yeah.
and the but the more I studied it and the more I learned about it, the more at home I felt with it, and it went from there. I was challenged by a girl who I used to go to tournaments and compete in forums. So I didn't like the point fighting. I just felt it was too one dimensional. It was not to miss your target is allowing yourself to miss a target if you actually got into a real altercation. And if you practice that, it becomes embedded in your muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
Once it becomes ingrained in your muscle memory, you do it a certain way, and you'll always do it that way because that's the way you trained in it. And to train to miss all the time, I thought was not very not very conducive to protecting yourself. So I never competed in point fighting in that respect. I can appreciate the range and the timing and the distance and the flexibility and the tactics when it comes to trying to get one up on your opponent. But other than that, I never agreed with it.
I see.
That being said, I was challenged by a girl who um, wanted to do kickboxing, and I had never done that. So I only had 10 days to prepare.
Oh
And
my God.
what they said
There you
was,
go.
I mean, she kept asking me to compete with her in point fighting, and I said no, I don't do that. And then one day she said, well, let's do a kickboxing match because she didn't have any opponents, and there weren't that many people around doing kickboxing in my area. So I just said, all right. I had 10 days to learn how, and we do it out. Yeah,
And how
it
did
was
it go?
interesting.
Your first match. How did that go for you, Kat?
Well, she was 190 pounds and I was 120. So it was deemed an exhibition to begin with. And when
Uh-huh.
they said, and it's so funny, when the announcer came on and said, well, give the ladies a hand, we're going to be, tallying up the scores right now. And my instructor went up to the announcer, and said, I tell you what, this is an exhibition and you know this. I mean, it was her school who put on the whole event, right? And he
Hmm.
said, if you announce a winner, I'm going to break your arm right here, right now.
Wow.
This is an exhibition. Your girl weighs 190, my girl weighs 120. And you asked if we would be willing to do an exhibition. So the guy said, give the ladies a hand, everybody. Thank you very much. I
I
mean,
gotcha.
who can say who won or who didn't win? But what I do know is um, it was quite an interesting experience.
So that's what lit you up. From right there, you got the fever right there. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
I'm an adrenaline junkie. What can I say?
Bless your heart. I gotcha. Totally, totally. So from right there, that kind of just sparked you up. And at what point did you really start to really train for this? What point was it that you said to yourself, you know what, I can do something with this?
It's not even that I got to that point. It was my instructor, and he said, do you want to become a world champion? And I said, sure. I had no idea what that entailed. Had no clue. I just said yes. Why not? Because if I'm in it, let's go all the way, right?
Right.
Start,
Absolutely.
finish what you start, and
Right.
that's finishing it right there, so to speak. Of course, once you go on from there, it's not just that, but anyway, that's when training became hell.
Yeah. I remember looking through Black Belt when you first started your journey.
Hmm.
I'm not going to age myself here on television or radio, but I will say it was back in the day when this was really starting to pick up with female kickboxing. There were a couple of other pioneers that was out there trying to kick down the door too, but no one was more vocal than yourself. No one had as much publicity as you did because you were absolutely a punisher in the ring. Remember seeing some of these photos of you going up flights of stairs at like some kind of high school with some kind of breathing apparatus on. And I thought to myself, oh my God, this woman's like a super soldier going after this. And let's talk a little bit about that. I know that you went through some difficulty there. And
Yeah, it was hell. I was in the gym, or our school that we opened. My boyfriend and we opened it. I was the only female there. So in that respect, all my training partners were men. All my sparring partners were men. So, I got the crap beat out of me constantly until I figured it out. And it took a while, because the guys that I'm training with are already, U.S. champions, national champions, world champions, and I'm brand new. So it was quite an experience in that, once the guys got past the fact that, I was a girl, because at first they'd take it easy, and then I'd hit them as hard as I could. I mean, literally as hard as I could once I learned how to hit. So I'd hit them as hard as I could, and then they wake up and go, "Oh crap! Okay, this is real. She's serious," because they didn't take it as Okay, well I'll just give her a couple rounds, and then I'll go back to my regular sparring, right? I'll go back to my actual training, right?
right.
Which at the time was highly insulting, but I earned their respect quickly because the harder I hit them, the more they paid attention, which is a good thing. But at the same time, I took a serious beating many times,
Hmm.
many times, until I figured out, how to move and how to make them miss and make them pay and that sort of thing. But it took a good long while, and just figuring things out on the fly. Because when I got into kickboxing, I didn't know anything about it, and I started doing, in the very beginning, I was doing amateur boxing, just to, because there was no amateur kickboxing really in the area. So I just did amateur boxing for a while, and just picked up got my skills better, and slowly but surely. I think it was slowly, but looking at the time frame, it was actually very quick, that I got an opportunity to fight for my first pro fight. And in my first pro fight, I only had maybe, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 amateur fights. When typically you're supposed to have 40 or 50, 60 before you turn pro. But I had a few. And then the girl I fought was like 18-2, and I told him I was 6-0 as a professional. And at the time, there was no way to check to see who was professional and who wasn't. So they went with it. And I had my first pro fight against a girl who was far more experienced. And I learned a lot from her, a ton.
Well,
Yeah.
I remember watching you because literally you were breaking the glass ceiling when, here I'm seeing you on ESPN out of Bakersfield. kicking everyone's ass. Excuse my language here
That's okay.
to all the youth, but literally putting a beat down on some of these people. I remember watching quite a few of your matches, and some of the color commentary that was coming from these guys that have been watching guys for such a long time, and you coming along and really, sticking it to quite a few people in the ring. And I remember your spinning back kick. I remembered you, just literally just ringing people's bells left and right. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I don't think that anyone's going to be able to stop her in the ring. Let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, it's a male-dominated kind of, sport. How did people take you? I mean, you're talking like, you got the Don Kings out there, you got the Mike Tysons out there that are high profile. How do people take you coming out into the sport?
Well, I think my fighting spoke for itself in that respect. It didn't matter at that point if I was a male or a female. The fact that I went after the girls that I was fighting, and it wasn't so much that I had this, I've got to go forward and get them and this and that. It was just because I was really scared. So fear is an amazing motivator sometimes.
Absolutely.
As time progressed and I was more comfortable and more familiar with what was happening, the fear was always a motivator, but it was also, evolved and changed in that it was fear of not representing my school or looking bad or that sort of thing. But, there was always the fear of losing, and not so much losing, but getting hurt, because, this is a sport that I had, because I'm an adrenaline junkie, I really got hooked on it and grew to enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the training. I didn't enjoy the severe abuse from my boyfriend / trainer, but I was able to put all that aside and just focus on the moment. And that's really the most important thing, is just being in the moment and being able to figure things out while you're there.
Well, here you are. You're getting noticed by all these top people. Of course, Hollywood is looking at you because they see how much that you're dominating the sport. I remember reading some very colorful comments about how incredibly attractive you are, and that you could pack a punch was one of the comments. And all of a sudden, Hollywood starts saying, "Hey, Kat, we'd like to talk to you about a couple of things." Why don't we talk a little bit about how Hollywood came into the whole thing for you?
I think it was after my 5th world title fight, 4th or 5th. No, it's after one of them. I don't think it was the last one, but I was approached by somebody who said, "Hey, I'd really love it if you could, co-star in one of my films." And I looked at him. I said, "No, I don't act. It's okay. Thank you. I'm not interested." And he goes, "No, really, I think you'd be perfect for this film, and I really want you in it. And I just, would you mind just coming in and meeting the producer?" And he goes, it would just be wonderful if you could do this." And I just kept saying, "I don't act. I'm not an actor. I don't know. I mean, I can fight." But, so anyway, long story short, while he was trying to talk me into meeting the producer, at the same time, he's talking to the producer and trying to convince him to see me. And he didn't tell me that. So, it's funny how people work.
Indeed.
So he goes, the director was saying, "Please just read with the producer." And he was telling the producer, "Please just read with Kat just once." So he's trying to put us both together, and both of us are saying, "No, she doesn't act," right? Which is pretty funny in that respect. But I went and read with the producer, and the producer said, "Okay, you got the job if you want it."
Wow! And what movie was that, Kat? What movie was that one?
This was titled Nights, and this had Chris Christopherson and Lance Henriksen in it. And it was a post-apocalyptic kind of world that we were in, and yeah, I had to fight these cyborgs and stuff like that. It was just pretty
Well,
funny.
that was an amazing start for you. Here you are. You're on the set with Chris Christopherson, and some very well-known actors that are. I mean, you can see them on TV today and in the movies today. In fact, one of the guys was in the Terminator later on as one of the cops in the Terminator. Forgive me, I can't remember his name right now. But I'm telling you, you walk on the set. What was that like for you? I mean, the first time you're on a set, here you are. How did you feel being around all these guys?
I didn't know anything about acting or working on films, so there was, a lot of learning on the fly. But I have found over the years that that's kind of the best way I operate. Just hit the ground running and figure things out as you go. Um, but they they put their pants on just like I do, and I put my pants on just like they do. And to me, they're no one special. They were, more well known, which is fine. They're just people, just like you and I are. So in that respect, learning the craft, acting is, no joke in that respect. It really does take an awful lot to look natural in front of the camera and be able to personify somebody completely different, let's just say, or more like yourself, or who knows. But you know, the spin that you put on the character that you develop is a really an incredible art, and a very hard skill to come by. You
How
know,
did you find your motivation for that movie? I mean, what inspired you for your character for that movie that you can actually still get on Amazon, by the way? It's on
really?
Amazon. Absolutely.
Oh my God, that's
Absolutely.
funny.
So what
Well, that's
inspired you
good.
for your character? I mean, this is a post-apocalyptic kind of character. She's kick-ass, she's hot, she's, taking on
Mostly
the
it was,
world.
yeah. I mean, the acting part was, I want to say it was fairly easy, but um, everybody there was very relaxed and very comfortable, and so, it just the whole atmosphere there was just relaxed. Um, the fight scenes were something that, there were so many martial artists as well on the set that it made it pretty easy to choreograph stuff. And Richard Burton was also there, and Gary Daniels, and it was just, all these phenomenal martial artists were there. So it just made it was actually really fun to just create and do stuff and put the film together. In that respect, I love the work. I just don't like the politics.
Indeed. That was going to be my
Yeah.
next question. I mean, here you are. This is the first time that you are really inducted into Hollywood. And there's a lot of stories about what a lot of female actresses go through.
Well, it's
I'd
not
love
just
for you.
female actresses.
Yeah,
It's everyone.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we're hearing today in 2021, the latter part of 2020, about a lot of the casting couch kind of stuff, a lot of the stuff coming out about the kids, a lot of things of that nature. Um, would you want to kind of touch a little bit on that at all, Kat?
Um, I have, I don't do politics. I don't try to, compete against other people in that in that genre, because it's not something that I really wanted to pursue and do for a living and become, a famous movie actress. No, I enjoyed the work, and if I was offered something, then great. If I wasn't, then so be it. I'm not gonna put somebody else down so I can get this, or try to. I don't know. It's just the sort of thing is, I have experienced some of that. They call it the casting couch sort of concept. I was exposed to some of that, and I had no part in it, because I don't care. I don't care if I get the commercial. I don't care if I get this movie. I don't care, because it's if I'm not going to have fun doing it or getting it, then what's the point?
Indeed, indeed. And you
Really,
had
what's the point?
a ton of strength, where a lot of the actresses and a lot of actors nowadays went along with a lot of things. And, it
Yep.
says a lot about your integrity and your character as well. kind of going forward, you make your mark, successful movie. Of course, also to back in the day a little bit, things were coming out on VHS, and it was very successful on VHS as well. And it's still, like I said, on Amazon today, guys. To her credit, she was in Romy and Michelle's high school reunion. She was on Walker, Texas Ranger with Chuck Norris. Of course, once again, she was in The Stranger, Natural Born Killers, Knights, Rage and Honor, Batman Returns as the stunt coordinator. Let's talk a little bit about that. How did that come all about?
No, I didn't coordinate the stunts, but I was
But you were
Michelle Pfeiffer's fight double. Yes,
That's right. That's right.
We did choreograph all the fight scenes. Me and Michael Keaton's double, Lee was his last name. I'm trying to remember his first name. Shame on me. Oh, dang it. Anyway, so I spent, I got to say how I got this job, being Michelle Pfeiffer's fight double, because that's quite a story. I'll try to make it quick.
Please do.
I was still training and competing and fighting. I hadn't finished my career yet. So I was getting ready to fight on Showtime. I had about 2 weeks, and then Benny the Jet Urquidez, he calls me up and he says, "Hey, Kat, listen, they're looking for a fight double for Michelle Pfeiffer. I really think that you should go and audition." And I said, "Okay, sure." So he goes, "I'll tell you what, I'll set you up an appointment with the stunt coordinator, Max Clevens, and on this day and this time, and you go meet with him and give it a shot. So I think you'd be great for it." And that was it. That's all he did was get an appointment for me. So I drive from Bakersfield all the way to Burbank. It's 111 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's okay because I show up, I go through the West Gate. I'll never forget that part. And, I park and then I'm trying to find this building where the stunt coordinator is office. Mm-hmm. And I'm walking around and I'm basically lost, wandering around trying to find this building. And I see this young man who is wearing, baggy pants and a wife beater tank top with a shirt over it, a button up a shirt over it with skulls all over it. And he's got, long hair, straggly long hair and a young guy. And I said, "Excuse me, sir, do you happen to know where this office is? I'm looking for the stunt coordinator, Mr. Clevens." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I know exactly where that is. Let me walk you over." So he walked me over to the building and he goes, "Just go upstairs and it's that first door on the right." And I said, "Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it." He goes, "Hey, good luck." And I said, "Thanks." So I run upstairs and I walk in, and now keep in mind, this was 2 weeks before a fight on Showtime. So I walk in with a tank top and shorts, and I'm shredded at the time. And
exactly.
I walk in the door, and Max Clevens looks at me and he goes, "Oh my God, not another fat chick. Why don't you go home and go lift a weight or something?" And I looked at him and I laughed and I said, "Oh, you mean all the Oreos I've been eating are finally showing?"
Oh God!
I picked up immediately that he was joking.
Right.
So he goes, "Hey, come on, kid, let me see what you got." And so I said, "Well, I have this VHS tape of one of my fights." So I hand him the VHS tape and he goes, "Oh, okay." So he shoves it in the player that he actually had, and and he's watching the fight, and then he gets a phone call, and he gets a phone call. "Oh, yes, sir. Yes. Of course I can do that. Sure, no problem." And he hangs up the phone. He goes, "Okay, kid, I need you to go downstairs down in that grassy area and just, move around. Let me see what you can do." And I said, "Sure." So I run downstairs and I get into the grassy area, and I had no idea what he was looking for. So I just did some shadow boxing, threw kicks and knees and elbows and punches and just, tried to be as fluid as possible. And in the corner of my eye, I see that young man who had showed me where the building was. Right. Mm-hmm. So I thought to myself, well, all right, well, if he were the cameraman, I don't want to stop and make sure I'm looking at him. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. So that was my thought process. And then Max Clevens goes, "Okay, kid, come on up." So I ran upstairs. He goes, all right, kids, so I need you to come back on Wednesday for a wardrobe fitting, and then you're going to meet Michelle, and I want you to do blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm sorry, what? Pardon me, camera's messing up. Stop, stop, stop. There we go. And he
No
goes,
worries.
you got the job, kid. And I looked at him, I said, oh, okay. I had no idea what to do. He goes, come back on Wednesday for a wardrobe fitting and all that, and then go to go to this office and talk to the production company, and you got the job, you're hired. And I went, wow, okay. And as I walk down the stairs, I'm numb. I don't know what's going on. I'm thinking, I've
Right.
never, I, I've never done this sort of thing. What the heck am I going to do, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, and then I see the guy, the young man who, with the wife beater tank top and the shirt, and he waved and he goes, "How'd you do?" And I said, I got it. I'm really, really stunned." He goes, "That's awesome." And that person was Tim Burton.
Wow.
Yeah,
See how that works out, everybody. To the youth that
yeah,
are watching this, you always should take the chance. You never know what's going to happen. So, how did it make you feel, Kat? I mean, just
uh,
like you were stunned. You said that you were kind of numb. Did you just go home and say, "Oh my God, I got this," and "Oh crap, I'm scheduled to be on a fight"? And
no.
how is this going
Well,
to work out? I mean,
I went to the production company right away, and I mean into the office, and I said, "Look, I've got a fight in a couple of weeks. Um, I mean, I can come Wednesday and meet with Michelle and all that, but I just want you to know that I won't be able to start training her or doing anything else until after my fight, if that's okay. Are you okay with that?" And they said, "Yeah, that's okay. That should work out." So, and it gets better. So I said, "Okay, great." So I come back that Wednesday. I meet with Michelle, and I told her that I have a fight, and then after I'm done with the fight, I'll come back and we'll start training and all that, right? So we did the wardrobe fitting, and they measured everything. They measured everything, like
I bet.
bicep from the length from here to here, the circumference of my arm, the length from here to here. I mean, everything. They measured everything. So that was quite an experience, and just and then anyway, I had my fight, not had my fight, but I went to Lake Tahoe. That's where I was fighting, and
Hmm.
I get this phone call, like 2 days, literally 2 days before the fight, and they said, Michelle wants you to come down and give her a training session. And I went, what? I'm in Lake Tahoe. They said, well, yeah, she'd like to do a training session with you. And I don't know if they got the schedule mixed up or she just decided I want to see you. I didn't know, but what I did know was I went around to everybody I knew and scraped together enough money for a plane ticket to Burbank. So I flew into Burbank, got a car, drove it over to Warner Brothers, and while I was in the airport, there was this coffee mug in a nice little box container that had this cat looking really fierce and mean, and beneath it the caption read, "Piss me off, suffer the consequences." And it was a black cat, and I thought, oh my God, this is perfect. I got to give this to her. So I bought that from Michelle, right?
It's
And
awesome.
I show up at Warner Brothers and I go to the this trailer where Michelle, I guess she had her own little trailer there, which is really nice. And
Hmm.
I was about to knock on the door when the door was ajar about this much. And I was about to knock on the door when I hear Michelle on the other end talking on the phone, I think, because I didn't hear anybody else speaking back, but she was really angry. I mean,
Mm.
angry, super angry. And I thought, oh crap, this is not a good time. Maybe I should just, come back in 30 minutes or something. It's like the
Right.
last thing I want to do is knock on the door while she's screaming at somebody. She wasn't screaming, but she was really upset because somebody had just totally messed up something.
Hmm.
And so I just wait and I wait and I wait about, I don't know, 10, 12 minutes. And I hear a break in the conversation and I knock on the door really quick. And she goes, oh, well, that's my trainer. I got to go. Click, right? So she opens the door and I don't know if she, I don't know if she realized that I had been standing there. It must have been the look on my face. And
Right.
she said, "Oh my God, how much did you hear?"
Mm,
And I said,
yeah.
"Enough to know that somebody messed up really bad." I said, "I'm so sorry."
Exactly, but
Yeah,
here.
yeah. And I swear to God, I did this. I said, "But I brought you something." She was
Oh my God.
like, "Here's my peace offering. Please don't bite my head off."
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
And she takes it and she looks at it and she goes, "Oh my God, this is perfect. This is absolutely
Oh,
perfect." Took it out of the
see.
packaging and she goes, "I'm going to use this all the time." And I walked in and I guess that broke the ice because from that point, she was great. And she did use that mug on the set all the time. It
That
was
is
pretty cool.
fantastic. That is a
But
fantastic story. Yes, go
here's the
ahead.
most, the coolest thing about it all, right? Was um, afterwards, I flew back and I had my fight, and then I recovered from the fight, and then I come back and I start training Michelle, and they called me into the production office, and I thought, oh, what's going on? And I go into the production office, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he said, so I understand that Michelle had called you, or her people had called you and asked you to do a training session with her, and I said, yes. He goes, I know that you weren't scheduled to do anything until, after you got back from your bout. And I said, well, it's okay. I mean, I was able to get the money for a ticket, and I flew over and everything worked out fine. And he goes, well, Michelle found out that you weren't scheduled until after your bout to train with her. And she, I guess, misunderstood. But anyway, because you were so willing to fly yourself out there and make sure that she got trained that day. And all I did was basically an assessment to see what she could do and what she couldn't do,
Hmm.
right? Um, and the guy said, well, because you were so willing, she's asked that you get paid for every day that you're on the set, whether you work or you don't work, that you get paid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing integrity right there.
Yes.
Fantastic. Wow.
Yes. Good people. I mean, that the production company actually agreed to it. I don't know why, but it was just one of those things where, I mean, really, she saw that I went out of my way
Hmm.
and made sure that I got there. So she went out of her way and made sure that I got paid, whether I worked or not.
See,
Whether I
that's
was,
fantastic. That's
yeah,
fantastic. There are some good people in Hollywood. I know that a lot of us out there are hearing such really bad things right now. But stories like this, what Kat just shared, I mean, you got some good-hearted people that have some great integrity, and Kat's worked with quite a few. I know that you've gotten called all over the world to come and do thises and that's, to have guest appearances, and I know that Richard Norton had actually called you out to Australia to do a movie out there with him. Won't you tell some of our folks out there how that experience was for you going down under, so to speak?
not, yeah. Well, um, Richard is just a phenomenal martial artist and a great guy, on top of
Mm.
all that. So, it was a joy and a pleasure to work with him, but getting there was almost impossible. And I say that because he invited me to come out and work on the film, and it wasn't a huge part, but it was a good part. And um, unfortunately, the Australian government kept insisting that Richard find somebody in Australia who was also a champion and who could do that role rather than hiring somebody from another country. And he kept insisting, and these were his words. He kept insisting, well, no, there's no one that can do the job better than Kat because
Mm-hmm.
she's this and this and this and this and this, and
Mm-hmm.
the Australian government just kept butting heads with him. So, you know, it was on, it was off, it was on, it was off, it was on, it was off.
Oh
And
wow.
he finally won the fight, and they acquiesced and said, okay, you can bring her. So getting there, was an interesting story because I took my I took my dog to um, for my friend to watch, and take care of while I was away for that month. And you know, I said to him, "Take care of my baby," and I never referred to my dog that way ever, which was odd. And I don't know why I said that. Well, I didn't know it why at the time. I found out later why. Um, so anyway, I, I give him my dog, and of course he took excellent care of him. And at the time, he was married, and his wife was pregnant with their, I think, their first son. And I fly off to Australia, and once I'm there, like the first couple days that I'm there, um, Bill calls me, and Bill is my longtime friend, right? And he
Mhm.
says, "Kat, I'm scared. My wife's having, she's in labor, and she's going to have this her child, and it's too soon. And it's only 7 months into her pregnancy, not even 7 months, not quite. And like in that right in between stage, 6 and 7 months. So he was scared to death, and he kept saying, I don't know what to do. I'm alone here, and I don't have anybody else to call and talk to. And so I talked to him for a while, and tried to comfort him and ease his mind. But I just knew that there was something I needed to do. Anything I couldn't, like, in my mind I was going, crap. I knew something kept telling me I shouldn't go right then and there. I shouldn't go. But Richard Norton had fought so hard to get me there that I had go. I had to. And I just kept getting this feeling of foreboding. And I pushed it aside and thought, I'm sorry, but I have to go. So
Mhm.
anyway, he called me, and that night I um I sat down in the middle of my huge king size hotel room bed, shut my eyes, and I could, I decided to go to where Bill was, and I went into the hospital room, and I saw his wife laying there. Lisa, I think is her name, because he's not with her anymore. Um, and I witnessed the birth of their son, and I just asked that he be protected and that he be okay. And
Mhm.
I didn't ask for more than that. I just asked. And if you don't ask, you don't get, right?
Right.
So I saw that, and then I some time passed, and I opened my eyes, and the next day he called me, and he said that he's okay. He has to spend some time in an incubator, and there's a few things they need to do with him, but he's going to be okay, um, which is
Wow.
pretty awesome.
Powerful. Powerful. A lot of people see you, Kathy, as a martial artist, 5-time world kickboxing champion, mixed martial artist. We haven't even got to that part yet, but what I would like for people to know how deep spiritually Kat really is. I mean, you're hearing a little bit about how she essentially bilocated from her hotel room there in Australia to really, because what people don't understand, Kat, is that you have such an amazing heart. Um, that's one thing that I've gotten to know, getting to know you, is she has such a tremendous heart, such a giving heart. And let's talk a little bit about that spirituality factor for you.
Mm.
Um,
I
when
I
did you
guess
notice that you could do stuff like this, as far as bilocate? What was really your point in your life where spirit was really forefront for you? Was it during your childhood? Was it during the things that were happening in your life?
well, up until I was about 10 years old, I had often felt like I was incredibly shy and very quiet and highly observant. Um, and the more I observed, especially in my family structure, I was overwhelmed with the feeling that I didn't belong there. Um, that this was not really my mom and dad, and they are, but they aren't. It's in that respect, as a little girl, it's hard to explain. Um, and I didn't feel like this was the body I was supposed to be in. And, I just kept getting these overwhelming feelings that, when am I going to wake up? Because I don't belong here. I just don't belong here. And I related more to adults, and I related more to animals, and I related more to people who were not uh, stuck in the reality of um, who people are, and the being able to, if I tap on this and I touch it, then it's real. If I hear it with my ears, then it's real. Dang, camera, stop. Stop. Sorry, folks.
For
We're
our
having
viewers
technical
out there,
difficulties. There we go.
her camera's just a little bit of pixelating. She's a little bit matrix here and there every once in a while. That's okay. It's video compression.
Right.
No big deal.
Just if we started going into a loop, then there's a problem.
Oh no. Let's don't say that. Let's find some wood to knock on.
No, I'm
Superstitions
kidding.
over here.
Right. So when I was 10 years old, my family and I had moved to we moved to the trailer park that was right next to March Air Force Base. And you remember me making reference to that before, sneaking onto base and taking Aikido. Well, when we were 10, and that summer, the pool opened up that was in the trailer park. It was a fairly big trailer park, and there was huge, like miles and miles of fields beyond it, and a long road that went into other little towns, and it was lots of farmland behind me. So in that respect, it was really kind of neat because we could just go and play, and the ravine that ran along the fence where March Air Force Base is was lined with huge eucalyptus trees. And anyway, that summer I was playing in the pool with a bunch of kids, and um, we had this big beach ball, and we're bouncing back and forth, and there was some adults there and mostly kids, and we were all playing and having fun, and a ball bounced into the deep end of the pool, and I was on the edge scooping the water toward me to try to get the ball to come to me, and some little boy just came around from behind and shoved me in, and just laughing, and went on and ran, and he didn't know I couldn't swim. He had no idea. But he must have ran around and grabbed the ball, and they kept playing, and nobody really noticed that I sunk to the bottom and was working really hard to get myself back up so I could get a gasp for air and try to say something. And every time I break the surface of the water, I kept saying, I can't, boom, and I'd go back under. And I'd come back up, I can't, and I'd go back under. And I think the fourth or fifth time, I was getting pretty tired. I I thought I was going to breach the water and come up, and I was taking a big gulp of air, and instead it was a big gulp of water. And I sunk down, and I remember convulsing. The pain of the water filling into my lungs, because every time the water came in, I tried to cough it out, and it would just, I'd take it out of the breath just inadvertently, just out of natural habit. That's what the body does. I'd breathe in more water, and it just was more and more painful. It was excruciating. And finally the pain stopped and everything went black for a moment, and then I was above the pool looking down at myself, and it was very calm, and I thought, okay, this is interesting. So I was just watching myself down there, and I thought, okay, I literally felt like I had just looked around and was thinking, what do I do next? Right. And then I watched this woman walk across the street, walk into the pool area, which was fenced. She walked into the gate, and because she was a former lifeguard, when she was younger, she just by habit scanned the pool and saw what she thought might have been somebody, dead in the water, because it was my back that was sitting up and my legs were down, and she just dove in, grabbed me and pulled me to the edge, and was yelling for somebody to pull me up, and I was watching all of this thinking, well, that's interesting. and then I thought, and this was the strongest thought. I said, I need to go home. And that was my first thought. I need to go home. And from that point on, I wasn't above the pool looking down at myself anymore. I was gone, and I was back to, realizing the soul that inhabit the little girl that was in the pool, and very aware of who I was and God, and God is an interesting term that people use, and it's been given a lot of it has a bad rap in a lot of ways, because God's not a vengeful, angry type of being or entity or energy. It's pure love in that respect. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I just saw, hard to explain. I saw all the different beings that I had inhabited, um, over years and years and years and years of time.
Mm.
How many times I'd been on Earth, how many times I'd been in a being on another planet, on multitudes of planets, and other. It was just incredible. Um,
Mm. And that isn't
and
the first time that that's happened for you. I mean, kind of going forward just a little bit, because Kat and I have had chances of speaking about her journey before, and I'm so grateful to you, Kat, for sharing this with our listeners and our viewers around the world right now, because I feel that it's also like a testimony too of spirit that you're kind of giving as well. Um, Here you are, you're a top kickboxing champion. You go after the mixed martial arts. There was another instance that happened in your life, um, that I wish that you would talk about a little bit, where you were coming from Palm Springs back to California, and about how another example of spirit,
mm,
how that came into your life as well.
um, was that the older couple that were on the side of the freeway? Is that what I explained to you?
Yes, ma'am. When you were in,
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that was a that was enlightening. I was I had just 2 weeks before I had just finished a, um, recertification of CPR, first aid, first responder, and all that type of training. And I was driving back to, um, the Burbank area where I was living, and I was driving, gosh, 100 120 miles to go to work and 120 miles to go home. It's a lot of driving.
God.
Yeah, and I was working the graveyard, not the swing shift. So it's you work at 2 in the afternoon until 10 at night.
Mhm.
So I'd get off at 10 at night, and oh man, I'd be exhausted. But this particular night, for whatever reason, I wasn't so tired. Anyway, I'm driving home, and on the side of the road, I see this elderly woman trying to pull a man, which I assumed was her husband, an older man, out of the car, and she was struggling. So I immediately pulled over and ran up to her, and I said, "My name's Kat. I'm first aid and CPR and certified. Can I help you? Because you have to ask." And she said, "Please help me. I can't get my husband out of the car. I think he's having a heart attack." And I looked at him, and um, as soon as she said that, I looked at him, and he just slumped over, and I thought, oh, not good. So I put my arms under his arms, and I dragged him out, and I started CPR. I looked at my watch, and I thought, okay, it's this time. And I looked at her to call 911 now and tell them where we are. So I started CPR, and I just kept going. And I don't know how long it was into it, but at some point I was above him looking down again, and
Mm.
he was right next to me, and I looked at him and I said, "Do you want me to continue?" And he looked down at his wife, and he looked at me, and he goes, "I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet." And I said, "Okay, then I'll keep going." And right then, ambulance showed up. Paramedic runs up next to me, and he goes, "How long have you been doing this?" And I looked at my watch, 8 minutes. He goes, "Okay." So he timed it with me to take over. He goes, because he just started the compressions, and they did all the things that they do to bring the guy back, and they brought him back, which was really awesome. and put him in the ambulance, and the wife left as well, and I went home. But
That's
it was a
amazing. Oh,
pretty amazing experience to be, giving a man CPR, and then all of a sudden you're above him looking down. I'm looking down at myself giving him CPR.
I mean, you what they call in some religions and some schools of esoteric thought, you went full out, and you were actually standing with this man's spirit and having a dialogue with him. That is powerful. Asking him, "Hey, do you want me to continue, or do you want to go home?" Essentially, and then him saying to you, "Yeah, I got a lot more to do here."
Yeah,
But
he wasn't done.
it was. That's how powerful that the experiences that Kat has had. Um, going into her mixed martial arts, she got into mixed martial arts, and that journey right there. And then there was another instance with Spirit again, where you're on a highway, and then all of a sudden you have an accident. Once again, Spirit being there again for you. Did you want to talk a little bit about that and how that kind of changed the trajectory of your life?
Mm. Is that the accident where I T-boned this car on the freeway?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I was talking to my then fiance on the phone. I had earbuds on. I was being safe, and I was driving home, and it was drizzling. It wasn't terrible torrential rain or anything like that. It was just a nice drizzle, and it was about 11:30 at night, and I was doing the speed limit, 65 to 70, and this car in front of me quickly switches over to the other lane, and I looked at the car that had switched lanes, and then looked back into my lane to see this car sitting perpendicular on the freeway, and I slammed on the brakes and tried to stop. Obviously, that wasn't going to work. But the interesting thing was, I locked eyes with the woman sitting in the passenger seat. Now, the driver's seat that was close to, that I was about to T-bone and hit hard. And thankfully, the man had just gotten out. And, it's one of those things where I looked her in the eyes, and I could tell. It's hard to explain, but she looked at me and I looked at her, and I was trying to apologize for what was about to happen, because I knew I was going to hit her. There was no way my brakes were going to work in time, and I was just too close and going too fast, and they were parked. So it was almost one of those situations where you wish you could just stop time, but I also knew that this is another learning experience, that the soul decided to go through, because all the experiences that you have in your life, it's up to you to decide if they're bad or good or indifferent. It's always your choice to choose that. And a lot of people will just accept the fact that, okay, I got hit, so that's a bad thing. But what came of that? There could be all kinds of things that could come from that experience. And a lot of people say, well, if God is so good, then why did they let children have cancer? So, well, the soul chose that to experience for its own evolvement, for its own learning experience. Anyway, I digress. So, looking her in the eye, I was trying to basically apologize to her and tell her, I'm really sorry that this is about to happen. And she had this look of complete acceptance that, like, I know this is going to happen. It's okay. And hitting it was not something I'd ever experienced before. I'd never really hit a car that fast, going 60 miles an hour. even though I was slamming on the brakes. So who knows really how fast it was, but it's pretty darn fast.
Right. Yeah. I remember you telling me, you kind of, you were, it put the brakes on everything for you. It made you kind of step back on a lot of things. I mean, here you were coming out, you were doing your mixed martial arts fights at that point, and, you know, getting back into the fighter career again. You were working in executive protection, and that's something too that not too many people know about you, that you're also a security expert. And I say that because she is. She's a security expert. She did a lot of executive protection for quite a lot of well-known people around the world. At the pinnacle of at the top, having this experience, and then all of a sudden this happening to you, changing your whole paradigm again. How do you go forward after that? What is it inside of yourself? What is it inside of your spirit? What was going on with you then?
My brother, I was taking care of my brother who was dying from cancer. I'm trying to remember the time frame, is if he had already passed from cancer when I had that accident, but I think mostly it was just, I felt a huge, it was time to go, time for change, literally. And, I realized that at that moment, walking away from that accident, and, it should have been worse. Going that fast, the car that got hit, thankfully, I think it was a Mercedes. So, and they're built well, so it didn't take nearly the damage it should have. But my little Volkswagen Beetle was all smushed up, and
Right.
I should have been a mess. And literally, my foot was sprained. It was really badly sprained, but I walked away from that. And looking at all of it, I just knew that it's time for change. It's time. Not that I made that decision, but I just felt that it's time to change everything.
Yeah.
I stopped fighting, walked away from that, walked away from the schools that I was teaching. My brother passed away, and it was just, which cemented that, that feeling, that time to go, time for a different set of scenery, job, everything in that respect. It was one of those aha moments. Okay, you've been here too long, and it's time to do something different and get out of that. Get out of that. Not that I was in a rut or anything like that, but I just felt that it was time to cut ties. As odd as that may sound, pull up roots. I think that's a more accurate term.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And here you are. You're walking a new path, with a deeper spirit, a deeper, richer life. So it leads you onto a new journey. You walk away from all this, and excuse me, you kind of turn inwards, becoming more self-reflective, more in tune with spirit, and you end up in a new place, a new life, a new love, a new everything. How does it feel for you now, looking back to where you were, to where you are now? And let's talk a little bit about the amazing things that's getting ready to happen to you from now to the future. We were just talking about that. It's kind of interesting how things kind of go in a full circle.
Yeah.
With a richer, deeper cat. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sometime back, around the year 2010, 2011, I I met someone who ended up teaching me some very, very powerful energetic healing technique. And, um, you know, whether he's still continuing with it or not, I don't know. But I was introduced to a musician called Robert Aviles. And Robert Aviles played how many strings are in a violin? Four? Three? Four.
Four.
So he played a 7-string violin.
Mm.
Right. So he could reach notes that were much higher than a violin and much lower than a cello, and obviously everything in between. He was in. He was a. He was into medicine, going through college, and also a music major. So he discovered the mathematical codes and healing vibrations to with his violin that match the cells that we have in our body. And he played music that suggested to the cells to generate whole and healthy as opposed to damaged, which can happen because, you know, as you and I both know, when you have a stressful moment, that places just a micro amount of damage to those cells that don't continue to regenerate whole and healthy. They'd regenerate but not as whole or as healthy. So in that respect, he played music that the soul's cells would recognize and continue generating whole and healthy. He would perform concerts, mostly in Japan, that involved all of his healing music. And there were people who would literally come up to him afterwards, you know, crying, saying that, you know, my hands would never work, and after the concert, my hands are fine now, and or I can see, or literally I can hear, or I couldn't walk before and now I can. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, in this respect, we're talking hundreds of people, and obviously word spread. So in that respect, they worked very hard to Robert Aviles and Art Aviles, two brothers. They worked very hard to, you know, create music that people can listen to on CDs or what have you, or MP3s or whatever the case may be, that would help people heal. It's put in, the technology is put in water. They've learned to use this vibration in water, which is a great conduit for it anyway, and put that water inside a little disc. Like this pendant, for example, has a small disc on the flip side that is constantly vibrating at a frequency that my cells recognize to generate whole and healthy at all times, which is interesting. And you know, I personally, using Robert's music, learning this healing, this energetic healing that I've been doing, I've literally seen miracles happen right in front of me. And some people can call it hogwash or BS or whatever they want to say, but you know, when I witnessed it with my own eyes, and I know better, it's one of those things where you cannot deny it. From a spiritual perspective, it's supposed to happen because that person was ready and willing, and that was what needed to happen at that time. But from a physical human being perspective, people are like, okay, that's crap, that's bullshit. Pardon my language. That's not really going to work. And or there's people who go, well, I've heard of something like that, and you know, I've heard the possibility. It truly boils down to your deep-seated beliefs, how you've been raised. There are times when people will actually break their generational, taught beliefs of this and that and everything else. When you know that if you believe it, even if you don't believe it, I've watched people become healed in certain ways, And the reason I'm bringing all this up because it ties into, you know, today and what's going on with the world today and how much
Mm-hmm.
healing is needed in the world today, right now, at this moment, with
Mm-hmm.
everybody dealing with starvation or not being able to pay their bills or getting kicked out of their homes. And, you know, it's very real. So in that respect, um, being able to uh, give somebody just, if nothing else, peace of mind, knowing that if they focus on the the problem will always be there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if they instead, because the subconscious mind doesn't understand uh, visualization from reality, so you can visualize what you want in that respect into reality, into something you can actually touch and hear and see and taste and smell, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the
Right.
basic senses.
I completely understand.
Right.
Completely understand.
And it's one of those things where that whole issue, everybody's saying with the secret, and yeah, it's real, no, it's fake, yeah, it's real, no, it's fake. It's something that is trying to, that whole concept with the secret,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a way of showing you that you can get what you want. Is it the way? Maybe for some people, maybe not for others. It all depends literally on your beliefs again, and what you're what you're willing to accept and do.
I completely agree. I completely agree. You know, I can just think about people hearing our interview with you today and thinking how that they got on here to hear about Kathy Long, the martial artist, the five-time world kickboxing champion, mixed martial artist, and they're learning so much more about you and who you are at such a deep level. I don't think that some people thought that this interview would be like that, but I just want to acknowledge and say to you, Kathy, thank you. Thank you for showing that part of yourself. And it's I'm grateful to you. I mean, we've had such amazing dialogues about spirit, and I look at Kat as a friend, as a colleague, and as a one hell of a human being. Um, I'm just grateful to you. I'm very grateful to you. So from my heart to yours, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. I'm grateful as well. Very grateful.
You know, believe me, we could continue talking about spirituality, and hopefully we can go ahead and invite Kathy back to do just that because she has tremendous insight, as you could just hear. I want to talk to you a little bit about now. I know that some things have started to come to you now that have been, how should we say, a bit of a surprise with people learning more about you, about your work, about your movies, people reaching out to you in the security industry, and then all of a sudden, a large network, I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, reaching out to you and saying, hey, we'd like to talk to you about something.
I mean, besides yours, besides this
Well, yeah, but we're not a big powerhouse yet, like Warner Brothers, but what, another internet network that is on quite a few televisions around the world.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah, that big one. I don't know if you want to talk about it yet,
No,
or
of course I can. I can
okay.
absolutely. In fact, I should be because I'm going to be filming in a couple of weeks. I'm going to LA to film for a weekend. I've been invited to teach on Dr. Oz. He's got a his own YouTube channel. It's called OzTube on
Mm-hmm.
on the internet, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been invited to teach on his program, very short little segments on, um, just basic fitness toward kickboxing. I haven't actually worked it out yet, but I need to write out a lesson plan for for what they want to shoot. But it's going to be geared toward people who maybe don't have a way to go to the gym, or uh, who want to maybe start doing some exercise, but they're really intimidated and they don't want to overdo it. And by, jumping on Peloton and watching them do their, yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's phenomenal. However, it might not be for the person who wants to just start out, right? So,
Indeed.
in that respect, on Dr. Oz, on the OzTube, I'm going to be teaching, just some good basic kickboxing skills that you can use and work out with, as well as Black Belt Magazine Go. And Black Belt Magazine Go, I can cut loose a little bit on that one, because I'm going to be teaching more fighting concepts for kickboxers or whoever, in that respect. So I'm really looking forward to being on both of those. And my wife is also teaching Tai Chi. They're calling it moving meditation. And she's had, I think, 3 or 4 segments on OzTube at this point. And we're both going down to shoot some more, which is kind of cool. Really cool, actually. I'm humbled and excited.
I got to check it out myself, guys. If you can, go on over to Dr. Oz's channel, check it out. Also, look up Black Belt Go. I even think that they got an app that they got. I think, don't
Now,
they?
remember, I think they do, but I'm not on it yet. So don't look for me yet, because I got to go film it first. So,
That's right. So know it's coming, guys.
Yeah, I just got offered. My friend, a long time friend of mine, Kevin McClung, who is he's got a genius level IQ. Trust me. He's a rocket scientist, among a bunch of other things, and he makes custom knives and guns. And he had this show for a little while. Anyway, he called me up and said, "Kat, how would you feel about having the story of your life put in a movie or a miniseries?" And I said, "I've been thinking about writing a book on that." So he goes, "Well, let's do the movie or miniseries, whichever." So in that respect, we are going to start writing on it probably next week.
Can we kind of hint at what kind of network that they're talking about?
I'm not sure exactly. It looks like Netflix is interested in putting that together, but it could be others. I'm not sure. Not sure.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I'm so grateful that you allowed just a little sneak peek to our viewers and our listeners around the world about what is coming for you as far as down the line, where the people can watch you and see you and hear you. And it's very exciting to think about your life story coming on, a network like Netflix, or probably maybe even the big screen. Who knows how this is going to work? But it's definitely a profound life story. Kathy Long, thank you so much for being on Other World Global Radio today and on OWGN, the Other World Global Network. It's always a thrill, and to be able to spend time with you, to learn with you, from you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much for this opportunity today.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity as well, because every little bit helps.
All right. And Kat, let me ask you this. She's out there doing seminars around the world. She's out there doing security consultation. She's out there training folks and everything. How can folks get in touch with you to connect, maybe even have you host a seminar for them? How can they get in touch with you, Kat?
Well, I think the best way is to go on my email, my Gmail account, which is Kathy Long, EMA, which stands for Evolving Martial Arts. Kathy Long, EMA, @gmail.com.
Very good. With that, Kathy Long, thank you so much for being on OWGN, the Other World
Thank
Global
you.
Network.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And to all of our listeners around the world and all of our viewers around the world, this is just a little sample of some of the powerhouse interviews that we have coming this year in 2021 on OWGN. We thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Follow us on OWGN, the Other World Global Network, at www.otherworldglobalnetwork.live. That's otherworldglobalnetwork.live. We are on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We even have Telegram, Signal, because, as you know, there's a lot of censorship happening for unknown reasons. So we have backups in place. And make sure that you check out our website specifically after this broadcast, because you're going to see Kathy Long on the front page of our newly redesigned website. You'll see some of our interviews as well that you can listen to for free. If you want to download those, we appreciate your donation. And once again, all of our broadcasts, our video broadcasts, our audio broadcasts, are for the people, by the people. So if your heart moves you to make a small donation, we'll greatly appreciate it. Thank you from all of us, from our hearts to yours. Thank you so much.
Yay.
See you later, Kat. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
Take care, dear.